Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Following the lead of many other shows, this year's East LA Cape is going digital. The East Los Angeles Comic Book Art and Pop Culture Expo, or CAPE for short, was founded in 2016 by a group of pop culture and comic book fans who grew up in East LA. Headed by Peter J. Malini, who owns Nostalgic Books and Comics in San Diego, California, the show is dedicated to creating community and bringing together artists and vendors from our surrounding neighborhoods so that we can all enjoy the art that our community has to offer, and to connect you to independent artists so that you can support their work. This is our 5th episode of our virtual Artist Alley, where we will be highlighting our community of artists and vendors. Mark Martinez is an LA native and Los Angeles-based comic creator and illustrator. His most notable works are Samuriachi, Kai Julia, and Devil Mask. His work has been featured in the Secrets Anthology and the Manthology, respectively. For the last 2 years, he has been studying for a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in illustration and animation. Currently, he is at work on his next project, Sword and Shield, written by Kelly Deng. Thank you for joining us here today, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
Let me see. I always forget the first question, but all right. So let's get started with the basics. You know, like how did you get into art?
I think I've always been into art, but I never pursued it until how long ago? Probably like 6 years ago. Or no, that's not true. I think I started writing comics first because I was like, oh, I can't draw. But then I had a lot of time on my hands to like teach myself how to draw. And then with comics, I decided to go back to school to study illustration because I wanted to improve how my comics looked. Yeah, like I've been at it for, what year is this? I've been at it for like 3 years now. 3 years. Yeah, so it's been fun.
Cool. So what sort of things are you selling, or what kind of services do you offer?
I offer counseling. I can walk your dog. No, I'm just kidding. I do like walking dogs though. I am focusing on being a comic creator, at least when I started. I don't know if I would be a freelance illustrator or anything. That's still something I'm thinking about. But for the most part, I do like my own comics. I sell them, and I'll do prints and stickers and stuff. As I've moved through like different cons and met different people and studied different things, I have been considering other stuff, like I said, animation, because I feel like, you know, it's related to comics, and at least the path that I've chosen for my education, it's available. So I figured, why not? Like cartoons are cool, like comics are cool, like everything. Like I think I would like to do more, but I still have a lot to learn before I can do certain things. Oops.
Cool. So what was the inspiration behind Samuriachi?
I just wanted to make something at the time because I had never drawn a comic myself before, and I had been learning for a while at that point, and I just wanted to make something, you know, that was all mine. The actual story is I got drunk one night and I drew like the character, and then after that I liked so much that I started making a comic based off that. I didn't have like a plan or anything or a script. I kind of just drew it as it came. And yeah, that's the first thing. And I think that was like the first step to doing it. I think sometimes you just have to just do it to get started, because I think we psych ourselves out a lot in terms of like, well, I'm not ready, or I should learn how to do this. And I think it's just easier to learn as you're doing it rather than like keep waiting, because you'll be waiting forever if you never start.
That's real cool. Are there any plans of doing another story with the character?
Maybe, I don't know. I've been thinking about it. Right now, I'm working on my current comic with Kelly Dang, formerly Mom Comics. She wrote it, and it's nice to take a break from like the writing part, just because like, oh, I can just make this look cool. I don't have to worry about like what people say or anything. I have thought about it, but I also have other ideas, and there are ideas that I am more interested right now, but I'm not like opposed to revisiting any of the stuff I did, especially because I've grown a lot artistically since I made those things, and they could look at least how I imagined them. Like I don't think the stuff I made is bad, but I don't know. Like I would like to do something the way I imagined it. At the same time, I don't want to be like George Lucas, where I'm just forever trying to improve something that was fine the first time.
So why don't you tell us, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at MarkLDude. It's the same. I have a website, markldude.com, but it's under construction because I'm updating all the stuff right now. So it's not. You can find me anywhere. I'm usually at a con. I'm not at a con this year because no one is at a con. So yeah, you can find me there. I'm usually posting my art on Instagram. I usually post either I'll post my art on Twitter sometimes. Mostly I just post like things that I think are funny, or right now just like how I'm mad about, you know, the news in the world.
So how do you feel like the pandemic or the quarantine has affected your art or your workflow?
I think in terms of my art, like I guess maybe I noticed this because I was in school this past spring semester, and I feel that not just me but like everyone's art that I did see was kind of whether explicitly or subtextually, like there was this hint of like anxiety or touching upon something going on in the world. In terms of my workflow, it has been kind of difficult because I think like, you know, making art or doing your what you would consider your work is kind of hard when you're not like at your best. Um, and I think that there's this myth like, oh, like if you're sad you make good stuff, but I don't think necessarily that's actually true. I think you can make good stuff after you've processed that sadness or that those kind of negative emotions. I don't think you can actually like work well under those conditions. And it sometimes it feels like oh, I'm like, it's kind of selfish to be doing stuff for me, or at the same time you're like, oh, if I don't make something I'm being unproductive. And I think like it's healthier to like take a break or do what you can and then like just kind of like make sure you're okay. I've been trying to do that more so like throughout since the beginning of the pandemic, because I had like my schoolwork plus my day job plus my comics. So if one thing, I made sure to do the stuff I had to do, but if let's say I didn't have time to make a comic because I was working, or I'm just like not in the mood to make it like right now, like it's I think it's okay. um in the last maybe 2 months, I think it's gotten like I've gotten able to adjust to things, but still like as the news has gotten worse, it's like, man, it's like really hard to like do stuff. I think like I've talked with my friends who are just like um let's say like with Black Lives Matter, like, oh, I kind of feel selfish to be promoting myself when like, you know, other artists like need that promotion right now. um but at the same time, like I found this balance where I can be active in terms of activism versus my own personal work. And I think that that's like helped me manage things better. At the same time, taking time for myself to just like chill and like recuperate. I think before you called, I was playing video games, and I was like, oh, I better set an alarm because otherwise I'm gonna miss this interview.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting point, because I've been hearing a lot of people talk. There's this weird like quote that's going around about how Shakespeare wrote his best work during the quarantine, and everyone, yeah, we can't compare, you know.
Yeah, I think I remember I saw that. I was like, that's not even one of his best plays. So like, calm down. Like also he was being paid. I think like some people like, for the most part,
assuming it's one person, because we don't.
Yeah, yeah. If you believe Shakespeare was one person,
yeah.
I think that's kind of like not helpful. I think.
Yeah.
I think that, a lot has changed in the, couple hundred years since then. And I think that's kind of like romanticizing, like, oh, like if he can do it, like this could be your great work. Like it could also be shitty. Like we don't know. Like, I think that it's more important that you take care of yourself so you can make something well than trying to like treat this as like, oh, like this is my chance to make like my great work. Like even like you can argue, yeah, Shakespeare wrote King Lear in quarantine, but also The Shining happened when they were all stuck in the same house. So you could argue just, you might go crazy. So who knows? Like I think, the bottom line is take care of yourself. Like make sure you're okay, make sure your friends are okay, like check in on each other. I think that's more important than trying to make your King Lear or your Shining or
whatever. So you said you're working on something with Kelly. Can you talk about that at all?
Yes. It was originally, so the story is called Sword and Shield. It's about, man, I even had like I knew I should have worked on this, but it's basically a romance story, or I guess you call it an office romance story, but the office is a robot. It was originally for a romance anthology, which was about couples in like relationships already, because usually you have romance stories where it's more of like the courting and then they get together and that's the end. It's like happily ever after, but this is more like ever after, like, oh, what does it take to be in a relationship? Like how does that form? And I think it was not accepted to the anthology, and I think the only reason it wasn't is because there was a lot of action in it. But yeah, it's more so like, yeah, how do like the circumstances in which people meet, how does a relationship grow, like how does it sustain itself into like old age, and at the same time, like there are giant robots and they fight giant monsters and it's cool, like so yeah, it's been fun. Like I'm almost done thumbnailing it, and I will be starting, hopefully I'll be starting like actual drawing of the pages either the end of this week or the beginning of next week. Depends on how many I can like finish, because this is the first time I have drawn a comic that someone else wrote, and at the same time using all the stuff that I've learned so far since going back to school and studying art, and like looking at, like knowing how to analyze comics and comics as an art form and how to tell a story visually. So it has been like the experience between now versus when I made my first comic, Samuriachi, is a whole lot different, because I'm actually thinking about things that would never have occurred to me back then, not knowing like how comics work as an art form. So it's been a lot of fun. I'm excited to finish it. Hopefully, before the whole quarantine ends, or I guess the pandemic ends. But if not, that's fine. I'm just like, I'm excited for it. So I'll send one to you, Peter.
Definitely, that's really cool. So it's really
Yeah.
interesting. So like, so this is a weird question, but I was wondering, like, what's it like working on a comic with someone you're in a relationship with?
It's not hard. I think that for the most part before this, we were just we kind of kept our separate lanes just because we wanted to avoid, like, if you don't work well with someone, it's not gonna like you probably don't want to see that person ever again. So the way we approached it is like, oh, what kind of stories do you like to read, and what kind of stuff do you like to draw? And so like we found like that balance, because originally I approached her like, oh, there's this romance anthology, do you want to work on something together? So it was going to be short. It wasn't going to be like 100 pages or anything. It was going to be like maybe like 8 pages. So I was like, oh, that's okay, I don't mind that. But since we were rejected, we were like, oh, we can just do it ourselves and we can expand it. So it's very collaborative, and I would hope that most like comic collaborations are like this, where, you know, relationship or not, like you can at least like really get into working well together. Because if I know that in the past when I was just only writing, I worked with an artist, or I met an artist and I worked with an artist who were both kind of like dismissive of my inputs. So that's not like a good, you know, working relationship. I think like, yeah, you have to get along, but you also have to understand how each other works so you can like work well together. I think like if you don't mesh well, it's like that first act of the Avengers or whatever, where they're just fighting all the time and then nothing gets done.
Cool. So is there anything else that you want people to know? Anything else that you want the great masses that are logging into the virtual artist alley to know about you?
I hope that I can see you all again, hopefully next year at a physical con. Hopefully this pandemic ends by then. You can check out my books at gumroad.com/MarkLDude, and MarkLDude everywhere. Defund the police, Black Lives Matter. I hope you're enjoying the con. So
Cool.
yeah.
Well, thanks for taking the time, man.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me. It's fun. It was nice seeing people, because I don't really get out these days.
I feel you, man. I feel you.
We're in the same boat. Well, thank you so much, Mark. It's been great.
Oh, thank you. I hope you have a good day or good weekend.